welcome to this special lecture, which is designed for nurses, students, who are midwifery students, doulas, and every birth keeper, and even partners who are interested in how the woman's body works, especially when they're trying to conceive. Today, we're going to delve into a crucial aspect of women's health, specifically focusing on the 4 phases that women go through in their life. Whether you're aspiring to be a nurse, midwife, doula, or a birth keeper, this course aims to equip the skills to excel in your profession. Let's start by discussing the menstrual cycle, a fundamental aspect of the female reproductive health. The menstrual cycle is divided into several phases, with the first phase being the menstrual phase or the menstruation. The menstruation usually lasts within 3 to 7 days, and this is actually, like I said initially, the onset of a new cycle. The initiation of menstruation is a process that is triggered by the hormonal changes in the body of a woman. And to be specific about it, is the drop of the estrogen and the progesterone, which is a hormone in the body of the woman that triggers this process of menstruation. These hormones were elevated in the previous menstrual cycle. The symptom that women go through at this time before the period and during the period is really something that is individual from person to person. Some women go through emotional distress, such as not having a very good sleep. And some women will have a mood swing, making them very, very sensitive. And other women might have discomfort, such as back pain, waist pain, headache. And some will even have an extreme desire, craving for things that they don't usually eat or crave for. Now, this actually is what prepares you. This stage is what prepares you for the next cycle. In other words, if you want to prepare for your cycle, you have to eat what's right at your immediate cycle. That being said, some medical health reasons could also be the reason why women feel the way they do. During the menstruation, blood and tissues from the uterine lining are expelled out of the body from the uterus through the cervix and the vagina. This blood is usually from bright red to dark red in color. It can contain some tissue fragments and some clots in it, small clots inside of it. Larger clots during the period are not always a thing of concern. Having said that though, if larger clots becomes a pattern and becomes really crampy, heavy cramps with it, then some medical check is advised. In the last few minutes, we were able to talk about what triggers the menstruation itself. We were also able to dabble into the different symptoms onset of menstruation. We also had the opportunity to talk about the flow and what it contains. Now let's go to the next phase, which is the follicle phase. What is the follicle phase? Why is it called the follicle phase? The follicle phase is a time by which, this is after the menstruation, starting from the onset of the menstruation through to the 13th day. It comes around the 13th day thereabout, depending on an individual, of course. At this stage, what happens is that the brain signals the body. A hormone is therefore released. This hormone is what you call the follicle stimulating hormone. The follicle stimulating hormone is released in the ovaries, stimulating the ovaries, and by so doing, what happens is that the ovaries then produce what you would call the estrogen. Estrogen, again, is another hormone, a wonderful hormone that is really needed for the body of a woman. We need it for our curves, for our feminine looks, for our hips, and so on and so forth. Estrogen is mostly needed for the body of a woman, especially for those who are trying to conceive, for the preparation of the uterine wall to accept any sort of implantation. Therefore, it is very, very important to have this estrogen in balance, which is where your diet comes in place. Now, one of these eggs is most likely to develop. One of the sacs develops into an egg and is released. When this egg is released, what happens is what you would call the ovulation. Especially because the estrogen had done its job already, preparing the uterine lining for potential pregnancy, a beautiful implantation is most likely to take place. Now we have talked about the follicle phase. Let us dabble into the next phase, which is the phase of ovulation. Talking about the ovulation, this is a very wonderful and crucial stage, especially for people who are trying to conceive and for those who are trying not to get unwanted pregnancies. This stage is a stage by which the egg is released and it goes down into the body, meeting through a sperm and then fertilizing in the uterine wall, which has been prepared for it. How does this happen is a wonder itself, a beauty of nature. What happens is that, again, the brain signals the body. We release another hormone, which is called the luteinizing hormone. What this hormone does, you want to really think about it like a key starter or starting a car. You have a wonderful car, but it cannot move itself. But you need a kick, a start for that car to move. So that's what happens. The egg has already been produced. It's really ready. It's developed. It cannot move on its own. So what happens is the release of this surge of the luteinizing hormone sort of pushes it down into the tube, meets into the sperm, or pushing it where it needs to meet the sperm and do the job it's meant to do. So with this, you would understand that the ovulation is a process that has to be done for us to be able, or for a woman to be able to conceive. It is very, very important that sometimes these things do not come naturally, especially due to age, the kind of lifestyle that we have. It can actually disrupt the ovulation itself. Lack of rest also played a very, very vital role. And some people actually go to the doctors to get some pills which will actually inhibit this phase. Therefore, the woman is most likely not to ovulate. But mind you, a person who is actually doing that, the moment they stop these pills, have the chances to get pregnant almost immediately. Now that we have talked about this, let's go to the next phase. Now let's talk about the luteal phase. This actually occurs in the second half of the cycle. What happens is that after the ovulation, leading up to the next menstruation. After the ovulation, there is a ruptured follicle, and this then transforms into what you would call the corpus luteum. This in turn produces the progesterone and some estrogen, of course. The progesterone that is produced at this time really helps the uterine lining to prepare it for a potential implantation. What it also does is that it also prevents any menstruation in case pregnancy takes place. Therefore, when women cannot carry a pregnancy to full term, especially when it has not or little to do with the embryo or the chromosomes and more to do with the woman's body, then a real thorough checkup, especially when it comes to the progesterone, is done. On the other hand, you have the second hormone, which is the estrogen. This time it also increases, although it could be lower at this time than in the follicular phase. You know that by which you see that the vaginal secret becomes a bit thicker and makes the environment a bit less hospitable for sperm. The body temperature or the basal stimulation of a woman increases at this time. So this is also a phase by which the woman can use that to track their ovulation approximately when they're going to ovulate. In summary, the menstrual cycle is a complex interplay of both hormonal and physiological changes. These changes enhances the readiness for potential pregnancy and generally for the reproductive health of a woman. Having a very in-depth understanding of these different phases is very essential for anybody who is working in the field of women healthcare. Thank you very much for your attention, your time. And I really do hope you find this knowledge valuable to enable you to support women in their daily lives.